Have you ever noticed how the people who earn the most respect aren't always the loudest, or the richest, or the ones trying the hardest? They're the ones who carry something deeper. A calm presence, a steady heart, a quiet strength. You can feel it when they walk into a room. They don't force respect. They embody it. In this video, we'll uncover 18 Buddhist lessons that can transform how others see you, but more importantly, how you see yourself. These are not just teachings, they're living truths. The kind that turns suffering into wisdom and humility into power. If you've ever wanted to live with clarity, purpose, and quiet confidence, this isn't just a video, it's your path forward. Let's begin. Yujid, Lesson 1, the presence of mindfulness. You don't earn respect by knowing everything. You earn it by being present with everything. In Buddhism, the very foundation of transformation begins with one simple truth. Mindfulness is the gateway to self-mastery. Mindfulness isn't about escaping reality. It's about showing up for it. It's the practice of being fully here, without distraction, without judging your thoughts, without rushing to change what is. Why this matters? When you're mindful, people feel it. They feel seen, heard, respected, because your presence tells them, I'm not just in the room, I'm with you. Most people live in fragments, half listening while thinking of something else, nodding while their mind is 1,000 miles away, scrolling through life, never really arriving. But the person who is fully present, that person earns natural respect because they're rare. Real life story, the barista and the monk. A Zen monk once walked into a busy cafe. The line was long, the customers were impatient. When it was his turn, he looked the barista in the eye, smiled, and said, "Take your time. I'm in no rush." It startled her. He didn't do anything dramatic. He simply breathed, waited, listened when she asked questions, thanked her as if she were offering a sacred gift. She later said, "I serve 100 people a day, but that man made me feel human." That's the power of mindfulness. Not loud, but unforgettable. Guj. How to practice this in real life. Mindful breathing. Take 3 slow, conscious breaths before entering any conversation or room. Mindful listening. Put down your phone when someone speaks to you. Look into their eyes. Mindful movement. Walk slowly, once a day not to go somewhere, but just to be. You don't need to meditate for hours. Just return again and again to now. Because when you're fully in the moment, people feel your truth. And truth is magnetic. Lesson 2. Compassion is strength, not softness. We often mistake compassion for weakness, as if being kind means being passive, as if caring means being naive. But in Buddhism, compassion is not softness. It is the fiercest kind of strength. It takes strength to be gentle in a harsh world, to respond with warmth when you've been wounded, to care even when you get nothing in return. That's not weakness. That's courage wearing the face of kindness. The Buddhist view of compassion. The Pali word for compassion is karuna, and it doesn't mean pity. It means the desire to relieve suffering, not just noticing pain, but leaning toward it, sitting beside it, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's not yours. Compassion is not a luxury, it is a necessity for human survival. The Dalai Lama, and those who practice it don't lose respect, they command it. Because when you show that kind of heart, people recognize your depth. Story, the CEO who cried in the elevator. A young woman worked for a successful CEO sharp, direct, always in control. One day, she saw him in the elevator, eyes red, clearly holding back tears. They didn't speak, but when she got off, she turned back and said, "Whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone." That was it. Weeks later, he told her, "You were the only one who saw me as human that day and didn't look away." That one moment, it changed how he led. He started listening more, asking questions, smiling again, not because she gave him advice, but because she gave him space to feel. Compassion creates leaders. It builds bridges where ego builds walls. Ways to practice compassion daily. Compassion toward yourself. Stop speaking to yourself in ways you'd never speak to a friend. Forgive your missteps. Allow your humanness. Compassion toward others, especially the difficult ones. They are often hurting in places they've never shown. Micro actions that matter. A gentle tone in your voice. Checking in with someone after a hard day. Giving your full attention even if you can't fix anything. Compassion doesn't always mean doing more. Sometimes it means being more available in silence, in presence, in empathy. What people respect. People won't always remember what you said, but they'll never forget how they felt around you. If they felt safe, seen, understood, that's a reflection of your compassion, and that is power. Because the most powerful person in the room is the one whose heart can stay open no matter what the room brings. Ray. Lesson 3. Everything changes, and that's your advantage. We live in a world that tells us to hold on. Hold on to people. Hold on to plans. Hold on to the way things were. But the Buddha taught the opposite. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. That truth impermanence can sound terrifying, but in reality, it's your greatest ally. Because the moment you understand that everything changes, you stop clinging to what was, and you begin to awaken to what can be. Why impermanence is a gift. Most people resist change. They fear losing what they know, even when it no longer serves them. But Buddhist wisdom flips this fear into freedom. Because if nothing is permanent, pain won't last forever. Failure isn't final. Who you were yesterday doesn't define who you become today. Change doesn't mean you're losing control. It means life is giving you another chance. Reframe. From fear to power. The truth is, impermanence is why transformation is possible. A seed doesn't bloom because it stays the same. It blooms because it surrenders to change. That breakup that devastated you, that job loss that shook your identity, that version of you that you thought was the real you, they all passed, and in their place, something stronger emerged. When you stop fearing change, you start shaping your future with intention, not desperation. Story. The Woman and the Ring. A wise king once gave his son a ring with an inscription that read, "This too shall pass." He told him, "Wear it in every season of your life, in joy and in pain, and remember neither will stay." Years later, that same prince, now king, held onto the ring after losing someone he loved. He wept. He broke. But the words reminded him, even this will pass. And so will the darkness. That's the medicine of impermanence. It doesn't take away the grief, but it gives you a deeper anchor. This is not the end. How to live this truth daily. Let go of old versions of you. Who you were 5 years ago doesn't need to keep making your decisions today. Growth means outgrowing, and that's okay. Hold the good lightly. Appreciate joy. Celebrate love. But don't grip it. Love more because it won't last, not in spite of it. Release the fear of endings. An ending is not a failure. It's a clearing for something else to take root. Utes, people respect those who flow. The most respected people aren't the ones who resist change. They're the ones who flow with it, like water shaping to any container. They adapt without breaking. They release without bitterness. They carry grace and not rigidity. Impermanence doesn't weaken you. It strengthens you by reminding you to live fully, let go quickly, and trust deeply. Because nothing is forever, and that includes your current fear. Lesson 4. Letting go of attachment, the hidden key to power. Most people believe power is about control, but true power in the Buddhist path comes from something far more radical: letting go. Attachment is the silent thief of inner peace. It convinces us that if we just hold on tighter to people, outcomes, possessions, we'll be okay. But the tighter we grip, the more we suffer. The Buddha said, the root of suffering is attachment. That's not just philosophy, it's everyday truth. Think about it. Have you ever stayed in a relationship long past its peace just because you were afraid to let go? Have you clung to a dream that no longer aligns with who you've become? Have you tied your identity to success and then felt shattered when it slipped? That's the power of attachment. It keeps us chasing shadows, and it masks itself as love, ambition, even loyalty. But when you begin to release, not abandon, but release, you begin to reclaim your peace. What attachment really means. Let's be clear. Attachment isn't the same as love. It's not the same as caring. It's gripping tightly with fear underneath. Attachment says, I need this to be okay. But power says, I choose to love, but I do not cling. You can care deeply without collapsing. You can dream boldly without being defined by the result. You can show up fully without controlling the outcome. This is emotional maturity, and people respect those who live from inner freedom, not from desperation. Story: The Monk and the Teacup. A Zen teacher once held up a beautiful porcelain cup. He said, "To me, this cup is already broken, not because I want it to be, but because I understand that it will be eventually." He continued, "Every time I drink from it, I cherish it, but I never cling to it, and that makes my love more real." That's non-attachment. Not cold, not distant, but fiercely present because you're not afraid to let go. How to practice letting go. Detach from outcomes. Do your best. Let life do the rest. Stop obsessing over what should happen. Honor what is happening. Notice the gripping energy. When you feel anxious, ask, what am I clinging to right now? Awareness softens the hold. Release the story. You're not your title, not your past, not the person someone needed you to be. Let go of the story that keeps you small. Give with open hands. Love like the sky holds the sun freely without needing it to stay. Because when you stop attaching, you start aligning. And alignment is the most powerful position you can stand in. The paradox of respect. Here's the paradox. The less you chase people's approval, the more they respect you. The less you grip relationships, the more they flow. The less you try to control the world, the more peace you carry within it. Detachment is not indifference. It's clarity. The kind of clarity that makes your energy unmistakable, and that energy is magnetic. Lesson 5. Speak with intention words that create respect. There's a saying in the Dhammapada, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. In a world overflowing with noise, intention is what gives your words weight. People don't respect you because you talk the most. They respect you when your words are clear, conscious, and kind. This is what Buddhism calls right speechone of the pillars of the Noble Eightfold Path. It's not just about avoiding gossip or lying. It's about using your voice as a tool for healing, not harm. Words can be medicine or poison. They can build bridges or burn them down. The person who speaks slowly, deliberately, with kindness and clarity, commands the room without raising their voice. The 4 gates of right speech. Before speaking, Buddhist monks often reflect on 4 simple questions. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it the right time to say it? These questions act as gates. If your words can't pass through them, they don't need to be spoken. Imagine applying this at work, in relationships, on social media. How much more peace would we have? Story: the elder who spoke like a river. There was an old man in a village who rarely spoke. But when he did, people stopped and listened. Not because he was loud, not because he was a leader, but because his words were like clear, water-measured, deep, and nourishing. When asked why he spoke so little, he replied, "My silence listens, my speech reflects." That's the power of mindful communication. You don't need to say more to be heard. You just need to mean what you say. Practical practices for mindful speech. Pause before you respond. In a heated moment, silence is strength. Take 1 breath, then speak with clarity, not emotion. Speak to uplift, not impress. Replace sarcasm with sincerity. Replace cleverness with clarity. Practice loving speech daily. Compliment someone. Thank someone. Speak blessings into your home, your work, your relationships. Hold sacred space for listening. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can say is nothing at all. Listening fully, without interrupting, is a rare and powerful gift. Respect is built in the quiet moments. People won't remember every word you say, but they will remember how your words made them feel. Safe, respected, seen, or judged, belittled, dismissed. You don't have to be a monk to speak with intention. You just have to slow down and choose peace over performance. Because when your words carry stillness, your presence carries power. Lesson 6. Patience is the quiet strength that speaks loudest. In a world obsessed with speed, reaction, and instant results, patience is a rebellion. It's not flashy, it doesn't trend, but it carries a quiet strength that cannot be ignored. In Buddhism, patience khanti is considered one of the highest forms of virtue, not because it's passive, but because it's powerful in its restraint. It's easy to react. It's easy to lash out, to judge, to push when things don't go your way. But it takes wisdom to pause. It takes inner mastery to wait with grace. What patience really means. Patience isn't just waiting. It's how you wait. Do you wait with tension or with trust? Do you hold on to resentment while waiting? Or do you soften into the present moment, even when it's hard? True patience says, "This too shall pass. I don't have to force it. I can walk with it." And people notice that. They feel the calm. They respect the steadiness in your energy, especially in moments of stress. Story: the farmer and the storm. A young farmer once planted his crops and watched anxiously for rain. Days passed, then weeks. The sky remained dry. His neighbours panic-rushed to dig wells, argue with nature, complain about fate. But the farmer, he tended to his soil. He cleared weeds. He showed up every day. Finally, when the rain came, his field was the only one ready to receive it. Because while others were trying to control the sky, he was preparing his roots. That's patience. Not waiting helplessly, but working steadily with what you can control, while trusting what you can't. Huge. How to practice patience in daily life. Respond. Don't react. When frustration rises, pause. Count 5 breaths before speaking. Most of the time, clarity replaces anger. Honor the timing of life. Not everything unfolds on your schedule. Respect divine timing. It's wiser than your plans. See waiting as sacred. In the silence between goals and outcomes, you are being shaped. Don't rush that sacred in-between. Practice with people. Be patient with others' pace. Everyone is fighting a battle you can't see. Grace is a gift. Why patience earns respect. In times of chaos, people are drawn to those who remain centered. In conversations, they remember the one who stayed calm. In difficult moments, they lean toward those who didn't collapse under pressure. Patience is leadership without ego. It's strength without aggression, and it speaks volumes without needing to raise its voice. Lesson 7. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. Gratitude isn't just a nice idea. It's a radical spiritual practice. Because in Buddhism, gratitude transforms the mind. It turns your focus away from what's missing and opens your heart to what's already here. Let us rise up and be thankful, said the Buddha. For if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. Gratitude is not dependent on perfect conditions. It's the ability to see light, even when the sky is grey. When others complain, compare, or crave more, the grateful person becomes a source of calm. And that is what people remember. Why gratitude earns respect. We often think people will admire us for success, confidence, or control. But real respect, soul-level respect, is given to the person who remains gracious through it all. The one who's grounded in the storm, thankful even when life doesn't go to plan, content yet still growing. Why? Because gratitude radiates wholeness. And in a fractured world, wholeness is magnetic. Do story. The teacher with torn shoes. There was a beloved teacher in a village. He always smiled, always listened, always gave thanks. One winter, a student noticed his shoes were worn thin. Ashamed, the boy offered him a new pair. The teacher smiled and said, "These shoes have carried me through many seasons. I'm grateful for them and for you." He accepted the gift with humility, not entitlement. Years later, that student said, "He taught me something no textbook could, that gratitude makes even broken things feel complete." Gratitude doesn't require luxury. It only requires awareness. Practices to cultivate gratitude. Gratitude journal. Each night, write down 3 things you're thankful for, no matter how small. Over time, this rewires your brain to see abundance instead of lack. Gratitude in the moment. Pause before meals, conversations, or transitions in your day. Whisper silently, "Thank you for this." Gratitude for the hard things. Say thank you for the heartbreak, the delays, the losses. Not because they were easy, but because they shaped you. Express it outwardly. Say thank you more often to your partner, your colleague, your own body. People respect those who acknowledge others with sincerity. Gratitude is grounding. When you live with gratitude, you become a steady flame, warm, humble, and quietly strong. People feel safer around you. They listen more closely. They trust your presence because it's not rooted in chasing, but in cherishing. Gratitude doesn't make you smaller. It makes you fuller. And in that fullness, you command deep, quiet respect. Lesson 8. Self-reflection, the mirror that changes everything. Most people go through life looking outward, for answers, for approval, for direction. But the real transformation begins when you dare to look inward. In Buddhism, self-reflection isn't about judging yourself. It's about seeing yourself clearly with compassion, not shame. As a mirror reflects an object, so does the mind reflect the truth when it is still and clear. Buddhist proverb: self-reflection is the mirror that doesn't flatter. It reveals your patterns, your fears, your habits, your growth. And here's the paradox. The more honest you are with yourself, the more others respect you because they can feel your authenticity. Why self-reflection builds respect? There's a quiet power in someone who knows who they are. They admit mistakes without collapsing. They speak with humility, not ego. They ask better questions instead of pretending to know everything. That kind of emotional honesty is rare. And in a world full of filters and performance, truth is magnetic. People trust those who reflect before they react. They follow those who learn before they lead. Dory, the dancer who lost her rhythm. A professional dancer once shared how, after an injury, she couldn't perform. Her identity built entirely on applause, and movement fell apart. At first, she spiraled, but then she began a daily ritual, sitting with a journal and asking, "Who am I without the stage?" She wrote, cried, reflected. Months later, she said, "I realized I didn't lose myself. I found the part of me that never needed to perform." She eventually returned to dance, but from a place of stillness, not striving. People noticed. Her presence deepened. She became not just a dancer, but a mirror for others. That's the power of inner work. Practices for deep self-reflection. Ask hard, but honest questions. What am I avoiding? What do I keep repeating? And why? Where am I not showing up as my highest self? Journal without censorship. Let your pen move freely. Don't edit. Let truth flow before ego catches it. Sit in silence with yourself. Turn off distractions. Sit for 10 minutes. Notice what rises. Welcome it without judgment. Seek feedback, not flattery. Ask someone you trust. What's something I don't see about myself? Receive it with openness, not defense. Reflect often, not just when life falls apart. Self-awareness is not a reaction. It's a rhythm. What makes you respected? People respect those who know their shadows because they aren't afraid to stand in the light. Self-reflection gives you depth, not just knowledge. Humility, not just confidence. Presence, not just performance. It's not the mask that earns respect. It's the courage to take it off. And when you begin to live without hiding, you give others permission to do the same. That's not just respectable. That's transformative. Yujid. Lesson 9. Humility, the silent partner of true wisdom. In a world that rewards loud opinions and polished images, humility is a quiet superpower. It doesn't beg for recognition. It doesn't perform for praise. But it leaves an impression deeper than charisma ever could. In Buddhism, humility is not about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less often. It's the understanding that you are part of something far greater than your ego, a thread in a vast, interwoven tapestry of life. And the more you see that, the more grounded and respected you become. Why humility creates instant trust. People are drawn to those who don't need to prove anything, to those who can admit, "I don't know," or say, "You're right," or ask, "Can you help me understand?" Humility invites others in. It creates space. It says, "I'm not above you, I'm walking with you." And that energy, it's magnetic because it's safe, because it's real. Wisdom doesn't shout. It listens, it learns, and it only speaks when the heart is quiet enough to serve, not impress. Story: The Monk and the Scholar. A proud scholar once visited a revered monk, seeking wisdom. He talked endlessly about his accomplishments, books, and theories. The monk simply listened. Then he began pouring tea into the scholar's cup. He poured and poured until it overflowed. "Stop, it's full," the scholar cried. The monk smiled. "Exactly. Like this cup, you are too full of your own opinions. How can I show you truth if you've already decided you know it?" The scholar bowed, humbled. That moment of surrender became the beginning of real wisdom. How to practice humility in modern life. Admit when you don't know. It's not weakness, it's integrity. People respect those who are honest about their limits. Celebrate others without shrinking. Lifting others up doesn't dim your light. In fact, it multiplies the light in the room. Detach from needing credit. Do good without needing applause. Sometimes your greatest acts will be unseen, and that's okay. Learn from everyone. From a child, a janitor, a stranger. Wisdom wears many faces. Stay open to all of them. Turn the spotlight inward. Before you correct others, ask, "Am I living what I preach?" Self-inquiry is the highest form of accountability. What people remember. It's easy to be impressed by intelligence, but we remember and respect the person who carries their brilliance lightly, the leader who gives credit to the team, the teacher who learns from their student, the friend who apologizes first. Humility doesn't lower your value. It reveals your depth. And that depth is what inspires trust, loyalty, and reverence. In the end, no one truly respects arrogance. They may follow it, they may fear it, but they don't revere it. True reverence is reserved for those who walk in truth, gently. Lesson 10. Right livelihood, aligning your work with your soul. There's a unique kind of respect we reserve for people whose work reflects not just skill, but sincerity. They don't just clock in and out. They live in alignment. Their work feels like a natural extension of who they are. In Buddhism, this principle is called right livelihood, one of the Noble Eightfold Path's most sacred teachings. It's not just about having a job. It's about how you earn your living and whether your efforts reflect your ethics. Because no amount of success can replace the inner peace that comes from doing work that doesn't betray your soul. What is right livelihood? The Buddha taught that livelihood should be ethical, causing no harm to others; meaningful, aligned with your values; awake, done with mindfulness and presence. That doesn't mean you have to be a monk or teacher. You can be a builder, a barista, a business owner. What matters is whether your work supports life or quietly contributes to its suffering, and whether your soul can breathe inside it. Story: the artisan who turned down fame. A woodworker was offered a chance to mass-produce his handmade furniture for a major chain. It would make him rich. But he declined. He said, "I create with prayer in my hands. If I rush to sell, I lose the spirit. I'd rather stay small and keep my peace." Years later, his quiet studio became a pilgrimage for seekers of beauty and stillness. Not because he scaled fast, but because he stayed true. That's the power of right livelihood. How to align your work with your values. Ask, who am I serving? Does your work uplift or deplete others? Respect grows when people sense your work is rooted in contribution, not just compensation. Refuse to compromise ethics for profit. Walk away from business deals, industries, or methods that cause harm. Quiet integrity will echo louder than short-term gains. Bring presence into what you already do. You don't need a new job to live right livelihood. Infuse your current work with kindness, mindfulness, and care. Create value, not just noise. Whether you speak, build, write, or serve, make it meaningful. Make it healing, even in small ways. Check your energy, not just your paycheck. Does your work nourish you or drain you? Peace is a form of prosperity. Why this earns respect. People respect the person who turns down money that comes with a moral cost, pursues a calling instead of just a career, shows up with integrity when no one's watching. Because in a world where many are willing to sell their values, the person who protects theirs becomes rare and revered. Right livelihood is not just about what you do. It's about who you become through the doing. Lesson 11. Forgiveness, letting go of the weight that dims your light. Some wounds aren't physical. They don't bleed, but they stay quietly beneath the surface. A word, a betrayal, a regret, a name you can't say without your chest tightening. And yet, Buddhism teaches something radically liberating. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The Buddha. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened. It's about reclaiming your peace. It's how you stop letting pain take up space in your soul. You don't forgive for them. You forgive for your own freedom. What forgiveness really means. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean saying, "It was okay." Forgiveness means, "I no longer want to carry the pain. I choose to walk lighter." When you carry grudges, your energy becomes heavy. Your presence becomes guarded. Your heart becomes locked tunable to fully receive or give love. And people feel that. But when you forgive, even silently, you return to flow. You restore inner clarity. And, ironically, you become stronger, not weaker, because it takes strength to release what your ego wants to hold on to forever. Story: the monk and the woman by the river. A famous Zen parable tells of two monks walking in silence. They came upon a woman who needed help crossing a muddy river. The older monk picked her up, carried her across, and set her down. Hours later, the younger monk burst out, "Why did you carry that woman? We're not supposed to touch women." The older monk calmly replied, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Forgiveness is like that. You think you're punishing someone else by holding on, but you're only delaying your own peace. How to practice forgiveness in real life. Acknowledge the pain. Forgiveness doesn't deny hurt, it faces it with courage. Name the wound, but don't become it. Write what you can't say aloud. Journal a letter to the person who hurt you, even if you never send it. Let the truth spill out without censoring. Practice self-forgiveness first. Many of us carry more guilt than resentment. Say to yourself, I did the best I could with what I knew then, and mean it. Release the story. You are not what happened to you. You are who you become when you rise from it. Remember that forgiveness is a process. It's not a one-time event, it's a returning. Some days you'll feel free. Some days the ache returns. Be gentle, keep going. Why forgiveness commands respect. When people see you forgive a note out of weakness, but from depth, they respect your resilience. They trust your emotional intelligence. They sense the peace in your presence. Because forgiveness doesn't make you fragile. It makes you whole again. You don't rise by holding on to what broke you. You rise by choosing peace over pride. And that's a kind of strength the world notices. Lesson 12. Contentment, discovering the power of enough. Imagine waking up tomorrow and feeling no need to chase anything. Not more money, not more praise, not more status. Just peace right here, right now. That's the power of contentment. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, contentment is the greatest wealth. In Buddhism, contentment santuthi doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means no longer hinging your happiness on what comes next. Because when you're always chasing the next thing, you miss the beauty of what you already have. And what you already have right now is more sacred than you think. What is true contentment? Contentment is not laziness. It's not a lack of ambition. It's a deep spiritual maturity that says, I am grateful for this moment. And if nothing changes today, I am still complete. That inner fullness is magnetic. Because most people live in a trance of not enough, not rich enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough. But when someone walks into a room carrying the energy of enoughness, people notice, people feel safe, people lean in. Why? Because contentment feels like peace, and peace is rare. Story: The Fisherman and the Businessman. A classic story tells of a wealthy businessman vacationing in a small coastal village. He saw a local fisherman relaxing with his family and asked, "Why don't you fish more hours to make more money?" The fisherman replied, "So I can do what?" The man said, "So you can retire, relax, and spend time with your family." The fisherman smiled, "But I'm already doing that." This story isn't about rejecting progress. It's about understanding the illusion that more will finally make us feel complete. Contentment doesn't mean having less, it means needing less. How to cultivate contentment. Start your day with appreciation. Before checking your phone, name 3 things you're already grateful for. Simplify where you can. Declutter your space, schedule, or social media. Create more room for stillness, less space for noise. Resist the comparison trap. Your journey is your own. Someone else's highlight reel isn't your failure, it's just their path. Say, "I have enough," out loud. Try it, even just once a day. Watch how it softens your cravings and steadies your energy. Let joy come from the small things. A warm cup of tea, a deep breath, a sunset through the window. These are not filler moments, they are life. Why contentment earns respect? People respect those who don't live on the emotional roller coaster of wanting. They admire the ones who radiate presence, who aren't shaken by every delay or disappointment, who walk through life whole note waiting to be filled by the next thing. Contentment doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you grow from love, not lack, from peace, not panic. And in that peace, you become a mirror for others. You show them it's safe to slow down, it's safe to exhale. You are already enough. Lesson 13. Generosity, the joy of giving without expectation. There's a kind of giving that isn't loud. It doesn't post itself online. It doesn't wait for applause. And yet it leaves a ripple so deep, you can feel it long after the gift is gone. In Buddhism, this is called dharma, practice of generosity. Not just giving, but giving freely. Giving without attachment to the outcome. Because the highest form of generosity doesn't say, "Look what I gave." It says, "What's mine was never really mine alone." What true generosity really means. Generosity isn't about wealth. It's about willingness. A smile when someone needs hope. A moment of your time. A kind word that helps someone feel seen. A meal shared without obligation. The value of a gift lies not in its price, but in the heart behind it. When you give with purity, expecting nothing in return, you become a vessel of compassion. And people sense that. They don't just like you, they respect you because your presence makes life feel lighter. Story: The Man with Two Jackets. A monk once travelled through a cold village with 2 robes sewn to wear, one spare. He saw a man shivering on the roadside and offered him his second robe. A villager nearby asked, "What if you need it later?" The monk replied, "If I'm cold tomorrow, the memory of today's warmth will keep me strong." He didn't give because he had excess. He gave because he had enough. That kind of giving, the kind that comes from sufficiency, not surplus, touches hearts far deeper than charity ever could. How to practice generosity in daily life. Give without broadcasting. Real generosity is quiet. It doesn't need witnesses. Let your giving be a sacred act, not a public performance. Be generous with your attention. Listen with your full presence. In today's distracted world, presence is one of the rarest gifts. Practice everyday kindness. Hold a door. Let someone speak without interrupting. Offer a compliment without a motive. Detach from outcome. If you give expecting praise or reciprocation, it's a transaction, not a gift. True generosity ends with the giving, not the return. Share from your spirit, not just your wallet. Wisdom, encouragement, insight, these are forms of dharma too. You are more abundant than you realize. Why generosity is so deeply respected. When people see that you give not to elevate your image, but to uplift their spirit, they trust you. They admire you, because your giving is not about status, it's about service. Generosity, in its purest form, is a form of liberation. It frees others and it frees you from the grip of ego. You no longer ask, "What do I get?" You ask, "What can I offer to this moment, to this person, to this world?" And in that offering, your light expands. Quietly, authentically, powerfully. Lesson 14. Equanimity, unshakable calm in a shaking world. Some people walk into chaos and stay calm. They don't flinch when insulted. They don't panic when plans fall apart. They breathe, pause, and respond with presence. That is the power of equanimity. In Buddhism, equanimity is called upekkha, a profound inner balance, a mind that remains steady amidst the storms of life. It's not numbness. It's not passivity. It's clarity in motion, a peaceful strength so deep, nothing on the surface can disturb it. What is equanimity? Equanimity is the wisdom of non-reactivity. It doesn't mean you don't feel emotions. It means your emotions don't own you. You don't chase pleasure. You don't run from pain. You remain present no matter what arises. It's the ability to say, "This too is part of life, and I will meet it with grace." Story: the farmer and the wild horse. An old farmer's horse ran away. His neighbours said, "What bad luck?" He replied, "Maybe, we'll see." Days later, the horse returned bringing with it 3 wild horses. The neighbours cheered, "What good luck?" He said again, "Maybe, we'll see." Then his son tried to tame a horse, fell and broke his leg. "Such misfortune," they gasped. The farmer calmly said, "Maybe, we'll see." A week later, the army came, drafting all able-bodied young men for war. His son was spared. That is equanimity, not rushing to label things as good or bad, just meeting life as it unfolds. Practices to cultivate equanimity. Meditate on the temporary nature of emotions. When joy arises, savor it. When sadness comes, observe it. Remind yourself, this too shall pass. Pause before reacting. Create a 3-second gap between trigger and response. In that gap, choose peace over impulse. Practice non-judgment. Let things be as they are without slapping a label on them. Life is rarely black or white, it's always unfolding. Repeat this mantra: I allow life to rise and fall, and I remain at peace within it. Welcome both gain and loss. When praised, don't get attached. When criticized, don't take it personally. Let both pass through you without leaving residue. Why equanimity earns deep respect. In times of crisis, the calm one becomes the leader. Not because they shout the loudest, but because they carry stillness that steadies everyone else. They don't take the bait. They don't get dragged into drama. They act from wisdom, not woundedness. That kind of calm is rare, and people are instinctively drawn to it. Equanimity doesn't make you indifferent. It makes you unshakable because you're anchored not in outcomes, but in presence. You become the eye of the storm, still, aware, grounded. Lesson 15. Inner peace, the silent force that changes everything. What if the most powerful thing you could offer the world was your calm? Not your arguments, not your victories, but the way you don't react when provoked, the way you stay soft in a hardened world, the way you choose stillness when chaos invites you to spiral. In Buddhism, inner peace isn't something you find. It's something you remember because it's already within you. You were born with it, but the world taught you to panic, to perform, to prove. So the practice isn't about adding more. It's about subtracting noise until only clarity remains. What inner peace really is. Inner peace is not the absence of problems. It's the absence of inner warfare. It's your refusal to argue with reality. It's the quiet knowing that you are okay even when everything around you isn't. It's responding instead of reacting, breathing instead of breaking. Peace isn't passive, it's power under control. Because when you are no longer easily disturbed, you become uncommonly powerful. Story: the candle in the cave. A monk once sat in a pitch-dark cave for 7 days. No books, no speech, no noise, just stillness. When asked what he gained from the silence, he said, I didn't gain anything. I lost the voices that weren't mine. And beneath that, I found peace that was always there. Inner peace doesn't arrive with fanfare. It whispers, it waits, it watches. But once you touch it, you begin to carry a calm that no one can steal. How to cultivate inner peace. Create daily quiet time. Even 10 minutes in silence can reset your nervous system. Let your mind exhale. Guard your energy. Not every battle is yours. Not every opinion needs a response. Choose your peace over your pride. Release what you can't control. Traffic. Others' emotions. Delays. If it's outside your hands, let it leave your mind. Anchor in the breath. When overwhelmed, return to the breath. Inhale peace. Exhale tension. Ask this in chaos. What part of me is still untouched? This question brings you home again and again. Why inner peace earns reverence. People respect calm. They follow it. They trust it. Because in a world addicted to noise, the calm one becomes a lighthouse. Not because they fix everything, but because they remind others that peace is still possible. Inner peace changes your tone, your choices, your timing, your energy, and from that place, you led not by control, but by presence. Lesson 16. Mindful consumption. What you take in, you become. Not everything you consume enters through your mouth. Some things enter through your eyes, your ears, your attention, and what enters your awareness shapes you. In Buddhism, mindful consumption is more than healthy eating. It's about being deeply aware of what you feed your mind, your heart, and your soul. Because every image, every word, every conversation is food for your consciousness. And over time, you become what you consume. Why this teaching is so essential. Think of your mind like a garden. What are you planting? Do you water fear with negative news all day? Do you feed comparison by scrolling through curated illusions? Do you nourish your spirit, poison it subtly? The Buddha taught that right mindfulness includes right nourishment. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The more aware you are of what enters your inner world, the more empowered you are to protect it. And when you protect your peace, others feel it. Story. The monk who refused to eat negativity. A young monk travelled to a village known for its chaos. He was offered a feast gossip, rumours, loud music, and indulgence. He declined. I only eat what leaves no residue in the heart, he said. The villagers laughed. But years later, when they found themselves anxious, overwhelmed, and confused, they remembered his peace. And they returned not for food, but for clarity. That's the power of mindful consumption. Your peace becomes your presence. Your presence becomes your influence. How to practice mindful consumption. Filter what you watch and read. Before you consume something, ask, will this nourish me or drain me? Notice your emotional diet. Who are you listening to? What kind of conversations are you having daily? Are they rooted in growth or gossip? Practice media fasting. Choose one day a week to step away from news, social media, even podcasts. Let your inner voice speak louder than the outside world. Feed your mind what you want to become. If you want peace, listen to teachings that reflect it. If you want joy, surround yourself with content that cultivates it. Be selective, not cynical. You don't need to reject everything. Just be intentional about what you allow into your sacred space. Why mindful consumption gains respect. There's a certain glow in someone who consumes consciously. They're not reactive. They're not drained. Their mind isn't cluttered with the noise of the world. And when others are panicked by what they read or hear, this person remains centered, because they know, I am the gatekeeper of my energy, and what I consume, I become. You don't have to live in a monastery to practice this. You just have to curate your inner life as carefully as you curate your outer one. Lesson 17. Kindness, the quiet language everyone understands. You don't need to speak someone's language to reach their heart. You don't need status, power, or credentials to make someone feel seen. Sometimes, a single act of kindness can say what words never could. In Buddhism, Metta, loving kindness, is one of the 4 divine abodes. It's not just a virtue, it's a path to awakening. Because when your heart becomes a refuge for others, you yourself become free. What kindness really is. Kindness isn't weakness. It's not naivety. And it's definitely not a performance. True kindness is seeing another's suffering and choosing to care, speaking gently when the world is harsh, giving without keeping score, being soft not because life is easy, but because you've made peace with your strength. Kindness is the choice to let love rise before ego reacts. And that choice is what people remember. Not your words, not your achievements, but how they felt in your presence. Story: the stranger on the train. A woman once boarded a crowded train in silence. Her eyes swollen, her energy dim. She was clearly struggling. Nobody spoke, except for one young man who simply offered her a warm drink and said, "You're not alone today." She didn't say much, but her hands trembled as she received it. Years later, that woman wrote, "I don't remember his name, but I remember his kindness. It was the first moment I felt human again." That's the power of kindness. It may seem small to you, but it might be the moment someone decides not to give up. How to practice everyday kindness. Offer without waiting to be asked. Kindness is proactive. A text, a gesture, a check-in. Don't wait. Be the one who reaches out first. Be kind to those who cannot repay you. The true test of loving kindness is how you treat those with nothing to offer you. Let kindness be your default. When in doubt, choose gentleness. Even when you're tired, even when they don't deserve it, redirect judgment into compassion. Instead of, "What's wrong with them?" try, "What might they be going through?" Practice selfless service. Volunteer, offer time, uplift others, especially when no one is watching. Why kindness commands deep respect. In a world that glorifies sarcasm, cynicism, and competition, the kind person stands out like a soft light in a dark hallway, not because they dominate, but because they heal. Their presence doesn't spark fear, it offers refuge. And in that refuge, others find permission to soften too. Kindness is not just emotional, it's spiritual. It elevates you without ego. It transforms you without effort. And it teaches you the greatest truth, that even the smallest act of love done without expectation may ripple farther than you'll ever see. Lesson 18. Self-compassion, the foundation of all growth. You've heard it before, be kind to others. But what if the person who needs your kindness most is you? Not the version of you who's thriving, but the one who's tired, ashamed, still healing. In Buddhism, Karuna compassion must begin within, because you can't pour peace from an empty cup. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It's not self-pity. It's acknowledging your suffering without shame and holding yourself the way you'd hold a wounded child. It's the sacred pause that says, even now I am still worthy of love. What self-compassion really is. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present with your imperfection. It means letting go of the voice that says, I should have known better. Forgiving yourself for not healing faster. Speaking to yourself gently. Especially when you stumble, because every transformation, every spiritual insight must be rooted in self-acceptance first. Otherwise, it becomes another performance. You cannot grow from a place of punishment. You grow when you feel safe within yourself. Story: The Monk and the Broken Bowl. A young monk dropped a sacred offering bowl. It shattered. He cried and begged his teacher for forgiveness. The teacher said nothing at first, then gently placed a cracked bowl beside the altar and whispered, "Let it sit here. As a reminder, broken things can still hold light." The monk never forgot. Years later, he told students, "My compassion didn't deepen until I turned it inward. That crack taught me how to love myself as I am." And that's the truth. Your self-compassion doesn't make you weaker. It makes you whole. How to practice self-compassion? Notice your inner voice. Would you speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself? If not, rewrite the script. Start again. Create a ritual of gentleness. When overwhelmed, pause and place a hand over your heart. Whisper, "This is hard, and I'm still here." Celebrate small progress. Growth isn't always visible. Honor your efforts, not just outcomes. Forgive your past self. You made choices from pain, from confusion, from survival. Now you're learning. That's enough. Give yourself the same love you give others. Your compassion is sacred. Don't leave yourself out of it. Why self-compassion earns deep respect? People don't admire those who never fall. They admire those who rise with tenderness. When you walk through life without warring with yourself, you become more present, more forgiving, more resilient. Because self-compassion isn't self-centered. It's what frees you to love more deeply. And from that freedom, you radiate something rare. A kind of softness that doesn't crumble under pressure. A kind of strength that doesn't need to harden. You become the person who doesn't just teach peace, but embodies it. Detachment is a daily practice, not a final destination. You've made it through 18 powerful teachings. But if there's one truth that ties them all together, it's this. Detachment isn't something you achieve. It's something you return to again and again. Letting go is not a single moment. It's a practice, a rhythm, a way of walking through the world with open hands. Some days, you'll feel spacious and clear. Other days, your grip tightens. Your mind races. You cling again. And that's okay. Because in Buddhism, detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care without needing to control. You love, but you don't possess. You hope, but you're not attached to outcome. You serve, but without needing recognition. Detachment is the art of holding life like water gently cupped in your hands. Not squeezing, not chasing, just receiving, witnessing, releasing. Why this insight matters. Modern life trains us to hold on, to people who've outgrown us, to outcomes we can't force, to identities we've long since transcended, but spiritual life invites us to let go, not to lose, not to give up, but to make space for what's real. Story: the tree that let go. There's a story of an old tree that stood alone on a windy cliff. Each fall, it shed every leaf knot out of loss, but trust. "I release," it whispered, "because I know spring will come again." And come it did. Every time. We too must shed expectations, attachments, even who we thought we were, to allow something more alive to emerge. That is the essence of detachment. How to make detachment a daily practice. Begin each morning with this mantra: I welcome what comes, I release what goes, I am rooted in what stays. Let this be the soil you grow from. Check in with what you're clinging to. Ask yourself, what am I afraid to lose today? Name it, witness it, loosen your grip. Pause before you react. Create space between stimulus and response. In that space, choose surrender over struggle. Let life flow without forcing. Notice when you're trying to bend reality. Trust that what's meant for you won't need to be wrestled into place. End the day with gratitude and release. Thank life for what it brought you today, and gently return what isn't yours to hold overnight. Why this insight is the most liberating? Because detachment sets you free from yourself, from your fears, from your ego, from the endless chase for certainty, and it places you back into life's flow, not drowning, not clinging, just swimming with grace. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop fusing your identity to every feeling, every outcome, every story. And in that space, peace enters. You'll begin to trust the rhythm of your life, to stop forcing what's not meant to stay, to stop fearing what must go. You'll stop needing to chase your path, because now you're walking it. One mindful step, one conscious breath, one gentle release at a time. Final words. If you've made it this far, you've done more than learn Buddhist wisdom. You've begun the journey of embodying it. Not just reading about peace, but practicing it. Not just admiring compassion, but living it. Not just wishing for respect, but becoming the kind of person who naturally earns it through your presence, your practice, and your quiet power. So ask yourself one last question. What can I release today so that I can become more of who I already am? The answer may not come right away, but if you keep walking, keep returning, keep softening, what's meant for you will come, not because you chased it, but because you created space to receive it. .coms. Thank you for walking this path with us. This is the Enlightened Mind. Let's take a breath, because you've just journeyed through 18 timeless Buddhist teachings that don't just inspire respect, they earn it. You've learned that respect isn't commanded through force, fear, or perfection. It's cultivated quietly, consistently through mindful presence, deep compassion, the courage to let go, and the strength to show up with kindness, even when it's hard. Each of these lessons isn't something you just hear once. They're daily invitations to return, to reflect, to practice. You don't need to be flawless. You just need to be real, present, humble, awake. So if this journey touched something in you, remember, wisdom doesn't end here. Subscribe to the Enlightened Mind for weekly teachings that feed the soul and challenge the ego. And ask yourself today, which one of these teachings will I embody right now? because the people who truly earn respect aren't trying to be admired. They're just living in alignment. Thank you for being part of this path. Stay grounded, stay gentle, stay awake.